You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
What you're hearing is Hardie Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardie knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardie products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardie.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
Blakemore is in, Guardsy out, Top 5 at 5, followed by Craig Kilborn from Southern California. What do you got?
Well, a handful of Vikings things to start with. The injury report is out. The only 2 people without full practice designations, Aaron Jones with a quad. He was limited. Patrick Jones did not practice with the knee today. That is your injury report. But Kevin O'Connell, we mentioned earlier, was kind of standoffish. What was the non-denial denial?
We call it a non-denial denial. We had 2 opportunities to say, well, no, we've elevated Jones, but Mullins has been our backup. He'll continue to be our backup. That doesn't mean someone else might not get in. And that has perked up the ears of some of us. I was heartened to find out it wasn't just me. Chip Scoggins took it the exact same way I did, which was he was a little too coy about it, which I think opens the door to more likely in the case of injury than in performance, although at this point all bets are off because you lose one and you're out, that Jones is somehow in the mix. So that I think was the most interesting answer from KOC today, the unwillingness or inability to just flat out say, yeah, we got Jones here. He's in the mix. Nick Mullins has been our backup, and we fully expect that he will continue to be.
Here was the tail end of the answer from KOC.
The best way I could put it is we're doing everything we can to get Sam ready to go, but at the same time, whether it's Nick or Daniel or Brett now, all those guys are absorbing the game plan like always, and it's such a fluid thing here for the rest of the way. We're going to do whatever we think gives us the best chance to win.
Maybe
there's a chance that he could be the number 2 quarterback.
We're going to do whatever gives us the best chance to win here the rest of the way, Kev.
There it is. That's as non-denial, denialish as you can get. And he, for all we know, he's not thinking, he's assuming we're going to win this game. But then there's another playoff game, and there could be some situations. We'll see. But it was an interesting couple of non-answers, the inability to just flat out say it. And I don't buy, I had a couple texts earlier about, well, it's, gamesmanship, and it's given, hey, you want to give the, the notion is basically this. Rams defensive staff meeting, they're going, God, we just pulled the tape on Mullins because he's the backup in case, there's an injury. Now we got to get the Daniel Jones tape. Oh, my God, we have no chance. I just, that may be a world in which we've been conditioned to believe people live, and even coaches might think they live there, but I think it's utter nonsense.
The way that Daniel Jones plays quarterback compared to Nick Mullins, night and day.
It is. And by the way, let's remember, Jones struggled this year, including against the Vikings. First game of the season, and he did. And I don't necessarily put all that on him. But he's got some ability, but he has not really necessarily shown it lately, except against us in that playoff game.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
A lot to get to. Russo was nice enough to put all the Wild news into one tweet. Quote.
Good for him.
to recap Minnesota Wild news so you don't have to read 6 tweets. So here we go. No Faber, Brodin, Spurgeon, Lauko, or Kaprizov tonight against the Lanch, which you'll hear right here on the Fan. Faber was hurt on the Jake Neighbors head contact. No update on Faber. Brodin is day-to-day with a lower body injury. Juracek will debut tonight. That's good news. Kaprizov has skated the last 2 days and will travel if there's a chance he'd play in San Jose or Vegas.
Okay.
Marc-Andre Fleury is sick, questionable to back up. If he can't, it'll be an emergency backup because Wallstedt and Ferguson are hurt.
Yeah.
And someone who I can't pronounce is too expensive on the salary cap.
Okay.
So there you have it.
Interesting.
There's
Well, that is a good roundup. That distills it very nicely and kind of covers pretty much everybody that matters. Probably the most encouraging part is that Kaprizov is skating, right? Because until that report, I hadn't even heard about that starting.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he is getting pretty damn close.
Once he's back, hopefully the sun comes out again, the birds start chirping again.
Correct.
The Wolves, they go to Orlando tonight. You'll hear on the iHeartRadio Timberwolves channel. They're on a 2-game winning streak still, but they're playing the Magic at 6. Tip-off at 6.
Interestingly, I think it's now been confirmed that one of their best players, Banchero, who's been out, hurt, is not going to return tonight. He's going to return, I believe they have back, I think they play again Friday night. I can't remember against who. So for a while there was speculation that it might be this evening. I believe he has been ruled out for this game, and they're going to give him one more day of recuperation. I would recommend our interview with Mike Conley yesterday. If you missed it, started the show early. He's out of the starting lineup. As we both pointed out, I mean, I think there's going to be some games where he finishes the game. He did in that most recent victory, the victory over the Pelicans. He was very, I think, vocal about saying that he is surprised that the Wolves are meandering. Now, you could say, you look at the standings and you say, I think they're only a couple of games out of 4th. I mean, it's a lot of things are tightening up, but then you got a lot of teams to mess with, too. The record is still not what it needs to be. And he also says he thinks the team's got to do a better job with Rudy. But Conley was pretty honest about the fact he ain't shooting well, and it's hurting, and he doesn't have a particular explanation for it. I don't think he necessarily buys it's because he's, quote-unquote, old by NBA standards, but not an opportunity to keep the road trip going successfully and to keep the winning streak going as well.
The Orange Bowl is tonight, the semifinals of the college football playoffs. Notre Dame and Penn State, they would call this copyright noon to 3 a programming predicament with the Wild, the Wolves, and the college football playoffs. How do you, where does that rank for you, the college football playoffs? How are you going to solve this predicament?
So which predicament now specifically?
So there's 3 games.
Oh.
There's the Wild.
Oh, tonight.
There's the
I
Wolves,
see. Yeah.
And there's the college football playoffs.
Well, are they, in this case, fortunately, I think they're all on regular TV. So I can just hit the regular remote. Where it gets tricky is one of them streamed. And then you got that problem. You got to get the remote and switch from, HDMI 1 to HDMI 2. That's the stuff they got to get fixed in the future. There's got to be a way to make that more seamless, because that does end up affecting how much I go back and forth. So tonight, you're right. It's going to be a busy night on the remote. And the beauty of it is you can switch around pretty quickly, and might have to do with performance. Might have to do with, some of the other details. I'm not sure. But I'm a magician when it's all on regular TV and I can just flip back. You can get like 3 or 4 favorites, and you just kind of keep going between them, and you stay on top of it. You play out, you play the commercial game. But then what's funny is sometimes you still find yourself in 2 of the 3 things you're watching, the commercials seem somehow timed. I don't know how it's possible, but then you're back to, come on, that's not right. There's 3 different events, and they're all in different sports, and they're still going to have all have commercials at the same time. But that's sometimes how it works.
I got one more for you because I just found this humorous. So, wide receiver for the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill. You heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard about his story.
Is, quote, committed to the team according to his agent.
Awfully decent of him.
Yeah, so his agent says he's committed and he loves the Dolphins and everything. But Sunday, Tyreek Hill was quoted as saying, quote, "I'm out, bruh." It was great playing here.
It was fun.
But at the end of the day, I have to do what's best for the career. Quote, "I'm out, bruh." But he's committed to the Dolphins.
But he's committed to the Dolphins, but he's out.
Yes.
That seems to be mixed messaging to me. So. That's the way I look at it. That's the athlete in 2024. Real quick, one last thing. A 701 guy. I love you. I do. I love 701 guy. We know that the reason Jones has been activated to the roster is they want to get the supplementary draft pick. We know that. We've talked about it. It's established. That's not the question now. The question is, what might you do with him? And if it's as simple as, well, we just want to make sure that, we get the compensatory pick, then that's something that the head coach could easily say. All right, we got several quarterbacks. Now he's one of them, and we want to put ourselves in that position. His unwillingness to say flat out that he is or isn't the backup is what has piqued interest from those of us who have learned to try to analyze and be careful to be alert to what's being said and what's not being said. That's the issue related to the possibility that he could actually be the backup quarterback as soon as Monday night in either Los Angeles or perhaps more likely Arizona. We've got a chance to check in when we come back with our old friend Craig Kilborn. He is based in Southern California, I think, in an area not as hard hit as many of the communities around him, but we'll talk about that. We'll get a live report from him on all of that. And then eventually, I'm sure we'll talk about less important things, including his own views on the current state of his favorite basketball team. Craigers, Lord Kilby. That's next.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's pretty early for the rap music, but we are out early today. Vikings programming to get to, Minnesota Wild to get to, Minnesota Timberwolves channel to get to as well. And so we got one decent-sized segment left to go in the program, a chance to chat with our old buddy, Craig Kilborn, joining us from beleaguered at best, Southern California. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Dan. Good to hear your voice.
Very good to hear your voice. You sound, the connection, I think, is pretty good. So give us a sense of, without necessarily giving out your address, where you guys are located and in terms of how close you are to all of the carnage that I'm sure you'll follow very closely in your adopted state.
So I'm in Hancock Park, which I do mention on my Instagram that I'm in Hancock Park. It's a historic area. It's between downtown and Beverly Hills. 40 minutes away is Pacific Palisades. And I don't know how well you know Los Angeles, but Pacific Palisades, if you take Sunset Boulevard from Hollywood and you start driving west towards the ocean, you go through Beverly Hills, you go through Westwood where UCLA is, Bel Air, then you hit the 405 and you go over the 405. Once you get past the 405, you're closer to the ocean and the air is supposed to be cleaner. So now you're in Brentwood. And before you get all the way to PCH, Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, there's a place, a beautiful affluent neighborhood called Pacific Palisades.
Okay.
It's stunning. And in 1999, when I was out here for CBS show, I started looking for a house, and my realtor said, I'm going to take you today to Pacific Palisades.
Oh, wow.
Might be too far for you, but you need to know the area. It's a beautiful area. And I saw Jack Benny's old house built in the 1920s. That's the house I looked at. And she pointed across the street, and she said, you see that house there? That's Tom Hanks's house. And Tom Hanks still lives, not in that house, but he still lives in Pacific Palisades. And I just heard today that his home escaped the fires. It's up on a bluff.
Okay.
But I have a friend who is an entertainment lawyer. He's married with 2 kids. And I texted him this morning because I said, oh, my God, I remember he lives in the Palisades. And I texted him at 8 a.m. and I said, please tell me your house is okay. And when I texted him, I knew the news was going to be bad. There's no way his house was okay. And he's succinct, and he texted back. He said, house is gone. Whole town is destroyed.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've been out there. You've lived. How long have you lived out there now?
Well, I was here in the late 80s and then from 1999 on.
Okay. So you've seen, what brush fires can do in Southern California before. Everybody says this feels bigger and even more frightening. I don't know how I guess eventually they're going to be able to quantify that. Even as of today, I thought there were like 5 distinct identifiable fires that all to varying degrees are not completely under control. Is this like, the average LA brush fire to the 10th degree? Is this, you think, the worst based on what you've either seen or heard reported locally?
I think it's the worst since I've been here. There have been some fires in Malibu. There are different areas. There's an area called Altadena, which is near Pasadena.
Right.
I actually looked at houses out there. It's in the foothills. It was very hard to get fire insurance when you buy a house out there. The whole Pacific Palisades thing completely throws me off. I don't get it. Now, what really bothered me was yesterday in the Hollywood Hills in a place called Runyon Canyon where I used to hike, 3 miles from where I live, there was a fire. And people are like, how the hell did this happen? This doesn't make any sense. Is it arson?
Right,
What's going on? And Princess Cherry and I, it was 8 p.m. and we said, okay, if we leave, we're going to go to Palm Springs. We're going to take the back roads to get to the freeway. We're going to pack a few things. And we thought about evacuating last night, but we didn't. We said, because she was monitoring it and they got that fire under control. Thank goodness. I did have a friend, a writer friend, Goldie from Family Guy, who he has 2 kids and they live in Los Feliz, which is not too far away. He abandoned it. He texted me today. He loves Del Mar, which is down near San Diego. So they're down there. But I'm going to tell you something, Dan. The thing that I cannot comprehend is the rebuild. Cannot fathom how they're going to do this because there are no homes. The area in Pacific Palisades, I mean, if you wiped out Edina, you got to start rebuilding. And how many years is that going to take?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I think the scale is smaller, but we talked and a Minnesota kid who's we call a boating guy based in Maui and Lahaina. That area got torched, as you know, around that harbor. And what is it now? We're over a year later, and none of that rebuild. And that's a smaller area, considerable area, but a smaller area than you're talking about, I think. And nothing's happened yet. A year later and change, there's still arguments over bureaucracy and what do we do and who's in control and what do we want to rebuild. Almost nothing has been done, to your point.
And that's there's a lot of complaining right now with leadership. And there's a problem with permits in general with building out here in California. I don't know what it's like in Minnesota, but it takes forever. And they're trying to say, well, they're going to speed it up. And there's so much arguing now going on
already.
Yeah, with the mayor and everything. So it's rough. I mean, I just feel grateful that we're fine. It's night and day if you lose your home or you don't. If you don't, it's still kind of business as usual.
Right.
All the markets are open. But when your friend says your house is gone, man, it hits you. I didn't know what to tell him.
Yeah, no,
awful.
It's very true. And so as of tonight, based on what you know, are any of them under? I mean, are we seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, or are we still not even close to that? What are you hearing, or what are you seeing?
I heard the winds are still there today. They died down for a while, but they're coming back. And I for whatever reason, it feels like it's settled down. Maybe because, sadly, Pacific Palisades burned down.
Yeah, right, right.
I can't figure it out. I did hear immediately, like a day and a half ago, they said by the time the Rams game Monday night, the winds are supposed to have died down by then. Sean McVay just said 30 minutes ago, he believes the game's going to be played in Los Angeles.
Oh, interesting.
So, and he said nobody's affected on the team. None of the coaches live in that area. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see, the rebuild is one thing. The sports is fun. It's an escape. And I'm a big Vikings fan.
Were you intending to go?
No, I don't go because it takes 2 hours to get back.
Yeah.
It's only like 30 minutes away, but it takes 2 hours to get back from SoFi. But also there are fights there a lot. And I don't want to get in a fight. These people are crazy. They get in crazy fights.
Yeah, there's that as well. Well, let's, in our remaining minutes, Craigers is joining us. Lord Kilby, Craig Kilborn, kind enough to join us. By the way, give people, as usual, your Insta information and your podcast in aren't you blogging now too? No, or is that different?
No,
yeah, that's different.
That's
a whole different deal.
Being.
That's
but
true.
I do the Life Gorgeous podcast on YouTube and Spotify and iHeart and all those Apple, and then I do Mr. Craig Kilborn Instagram, which is fun, and I support the local teams. I wanted to ask you if this has come up yet concerning the Vikings game.
Sure.
There's sometimes intangibles that affect the games. I remember after the Minneapolis Miracle, there was some stat that said when there's a walk-off touchdown like that, the teams go on to lose by over 25 points, and we got spanked.
That's true in Philly.
And I said, and when we beat when we beat Denver last year in Game 7, which I find very hard to believe, I said there is no way we're going to be ready for Game 1. against Dallas, and we weren't even ready for the entire series. But
that's true.
I wanted to ask you, has anyone brought up, maybe it's premature, but I think it's, being honest, the Vikes they're going to face an emotion from another team in another town. Everyone's going to rally around the Rams.
That's true.
And you're going to have to be on point to overcome that.
I think it's an element that will definitely be talked about for sure, and it's there. Even before that, I think the Rams are sneaky trouble. The Vikings are a better team. I fully believe that. They've played better over the course of the season. Rams have been more up and down. But I think they're sneaky dangerous. And I think because their defensive line is very good, it doesn't have a bunch of big names. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the entire defense costs almost nothing, right? It's a lot of newcomers and unknowns. But they're sneaky good. I think they can cause some trouble in terms of a pass rush. And I still as good as Buffalo's defense has been, when it has faced experienced, savvy QBs, and largely that would be defined in this situation as Goff and the guy in Los Angeles, Stafford, there have been some problems because veteran quarterbacks, you could say any defense, are a little bit more capable of handling difficult situations or making the right read or the right play. And Stafford's still sneaky good, So I think this is a game you should win. This is a game, if you ask me today, I think they probably will win. But I don't think this is necessarily going to be an easy task.
I'm a huge Matthew Stafford fan, one of my favorite quarterbacks. I've always liked him. He's better than Sam Darnold. In my opinion, he's better than Jared Goff. That's why they got rid of Jared Goff.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be a real close game. And I got to tell you, Sammy was, the moment was too big for him at Detroit.
It was.
He sailed his passes, but I wanted to tell you that I pass judgment on NFL coaches more than I do NBA coaches. Finchy says, don't turn it over. These guys turn it over. I can't, and I loathe turnovers.
Yep.
These are defensive specialists that are learning how to dribble and pass, and it drives me up the wall. But when it comes to the NFL, in the red zone, I don't care that you're bad running the ball. Run the ball.
I'm with you. Yep.
In the red zone. I mean, you can't put this much pressure on Sam. And then I would actually have kicked the field goals. We had no momentum on third down. We were getting annihilated. Kick the field goal. So, to me, you want to put all the pressure on Sam Darnold, fine, but it's on KOC. You better call a really good game if you're going to beat the Rams. I
think that's very well said. And by the way, their running game was actually pretty good last week, and you could argue that was more reason. It's the old deal of if you hand the ball off and you go for 2 yards, that doesn't mean you have to be done with it even on that possession. And, we were talking earlier in the week, the Lions, this is what makes the Lions so interesting to me. The number of times on, let's say, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, even in that game, where on third down they hand the ball off.
Yes, because they know they're going to go for it on
exactly.
4th down.
And they say, we'll take 4 yards or we'll take 3.5 and we'll be in better. And the Vikings never do that. They never do that. And I think that's to your point that you got to be willing to take a little bit of the heat off of them. I want them also to not have so many deep routes because that's been so successful. Break off a couple of routes, give him some easy throws to make, and maybe he also gets a bit settled down.
The long developing pass routes are ridiculous, especially when they're coming in to clobber him. I love the strategy of Detroit is let's hit him late, let him call something, hit him late. And the other thing is I'm a big Cam Akers fan. I just love the way he runs and finds the holes. Well, you can still do a screen pass. I know it's not a run, but you can do it. They did it against the Packers. A little down in the red zone, a little screen pass, and he, guides his way and finds the openings. He's a really good runner.
He's a clever runner,
very secure with the ball. I love Cam Akers.
He's better. Yeah, he's better than I thought he is. He's still got something left for sure. All right, now remaining minutes, let's talk about your favorite basketball team because we haven't talked in a while on air. And, obviously they make a huge trade a couple days before training camp starts. And we had Conley on yesterday, and Conley admitted, he said, no, I didn't think this deep in. I knew there'd be a transition, But this deep in, I didn't think we'd be meandering, around 500, a little bit better than that. So how worried are you that this is fixable? I mean, in the sense of they can be a relevant team to make at least a similar run that they did a year ago.
Dan, you need to tell the young people about the great quote from Rick Pitino. And I'm just going to paraphrase and say, Karl Anthony Towns is not walking through that door. And I'm a huge Cat fan.
Yep.
I think there were 3 people in Minnesota who knew Guardsy, Johnny Athletic, and myself.
You might be right.
And I want to tell you something. People forget this. I talked to some Wolves friends of mine, and they just don't seem to remember this. But the greatest Timberwolf, Kevin Garnett, he was not automatic down low posting up.
No, he was not.
He did not have a jump hook like Cat. So one of the reasons I love Cat is how efficient he is. Everyone thinks he's a three-point shooter. He can drive and he can post up. I'm very happy for him in New York City. I think the trade woke him up, and he's really professional.
He's been
playing
great.
Very well.
Yep.
But so I'm having trouble with Julius Randle. I do like Dante DiVincenzo. I blamed him for not playing well for the longest time. I'm seeing some glimmers of hope with the team. I like that we still play good defense. But to answer your question, I hope we finish in the top 6.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I don't think you think they're going to trade Julius Randle before the deadline. It's too much of an admission of a mistake. I think they're going to, work on getting him integrated. But I mean, do you have an opinion on Julius Randle, and do you think they'll trade him? Or I mean, the fans can't stand him, right?
Yeah, the fan now. There's a bit of a trap when the Randle subject comes up because he is a lightning rod figure. It's very easy to isolate on video. Where are you, man? You're lingering in the lane on defense, and then you got to run out and wave. Like, what are you doing? Pay attention. Right. So, it's easy to identify him as the villain, and he's a bigger name. I don't think he's their only problem. I think it becomes too easy to put it all on him. That said, if I'm being honest, as a guy who defended the deal when it took place, not because I was foolish enough to think that Randle was as good a player as Cat, but because I felt you were getting another tenacious dog player in Dante, and all right, let's play with it. You're actually a deeper team, even if you had to trade away the best player in the deal. But if I'm honest now, I'm more than squeamish about it, and it largely is because I thought Randle had more bite to his game and fight and toughness to his game on both ends. And I thought, okay, offensively, this is a finesse team. And they could use a little bit of physicality where he can take the ball and he can bully ball it a little bit, right? Now, the problem is I thought he was still going to be engaged defensively, and he has been an utter liability defensively. And there are too many games where you can't find him, and it's exasperating. And so, yeah, I'm worried. In terms of a trade, I don't think they're close to it. I absolutely believe they would consider trading him. I really do.
Okay,
but you got to. Who's that going to be with? How attractive is he going to be? That's that. And what are you going to get in return? It's all those things you got to worry about. As patient as Tim Conley is, when he decides, he decides. Now, there's no reason to think that there's no indication from Johnny, anybody who's around the team a lot, that he has decided anything yet. But even if he does, it's right. What's the answer exactly? What exactly are you going to get in return?
I used to love Julius Randle when he came in the league because he was so aggressive, bullying to the rim. His game is, I don't know. I mean, he has some good games.
He does.
Okay, fine. If he would just play above average and Dante would play above average, then the trade's okay. And I also blame I blame Ant because he just started playing better recently. But he's got to, there's a lot of pressure on him, and he's got to keep improving his floor game and his passing. So, we got our work cut out, and Finchie's got his work cut out.
Does.
This is not easy.
Yeah, well, and Conley, who was on with us yesterday, as you said, he's struggling. His shooting, these are the worst shooting numbers of his career from 3 and from 2. And you're already kind of challenged, right? You got Rudy, who's limited offensively, Jaden McDaniels, who's extremely limited offensively, And then if Conley's not going, how can you realistically survive in the league with 3 of your 5 guys being pretty inconsistent offensive performers? That's pretty tough to pull off.
And I'm a big, just to let you know, I'm a big Rob Dillingham fan.
I am too.
I was disappointed in him in the summer league, but I've been surprised at how well he's played when he has played. And excuse me, just to let you know, I'm recovering from COVID.
It sounds like, okay, COVID. Well, I could tell you had a cold.
I didn't know how my voice would hold up. But
until now, very good. We only got about a minute left, unfortunately.
My immune system has not been strong since the cat trade. Just full candor.
That may be what it is. Yeah, that might be what it is exactly.
I like Dillingham, and he's played better, and I want him to get healthy. I know he has a ways to go defensively, but he's so cat quick, and he changes the dynamic that I hope we continue to play him.
He brings some juice, and you're going to give up some stuff defensively. I don't think the head coach loves him as much as some of us do, and maybe that's got to be earned. I don't know. Now, he's been hurt, and that's held him back a little bit too, but I'd hoped that by now he would be somewhere in the mix, especially if Conley was going to struggle. So there we are. That's the music, man. We're out. It's great to catch up with you. I appreciate the live report from California. That was good stuff, and we'll be in touch as we get a little bit, past the Vikings. Maybe we won't get past the Vikings. Maybe we'll be talking to you the weekend in New Orleans, where you're not even maybe making the trip, but talking to us, previewing the Super Bowl. Who's to say?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. That is Craig Kilborn. Craigers from Southern California. We're out early because we got Vikings programming to get to. We got Minnesota Wild to get to. We got a lot of stuff on the fan tonight. Back tomorrow. Friday Football Beast, the regulars, and bonus Sean Salisbury tomorrow. It all starts at 3 o'clock right here on the fan.
Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me,
the stories a stadium could tell.